It's Wednesday, but specifically the first Wednesday of 2023. And you all know what that means. It's time for the Life in the Movies podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And from both of us, we hope that you all had a happy new year and hope that 2023 gives you all the blessings in the world. And this week is the January 2023 preview. And we're going to be talking about Daredevil Season 2, Episode 11. But first, introducing my co-host, Jacob Martin. Jacob, Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday.
Yes, I did have a good New Year. Good celebration with family. Played some board games. I got to see, uh, saw the Disney fireworks on YouTube. I thought that was awesome to see. Got to see Puss in Boots: The Last Wish New Year's Eve night with my sister, and it's my favorite animated movie of 2022. Then that was my last watch of 2022, and it was an absolute blast. I enjoyed 2022 as a whole, even with its ups and downs. There's going to be some new exciting stuff for me in 2023. I'm making a big life change. I'm moving, going to school, but I'm still excited to talk movies with you all throughout 2023. And I'm excited to see where this podcast is going to go throughout the new year.
Yes, before we go too deep into the episode, I just want to say thank you and wish you Godspeed on your journey. I know if I know if I need spiritual help, I know who to turn to. But wishing you all the best in that endeavor, and I'm so glad that you're still staying on to host this podcast with me. I couldn't have asked for a better host, so thank you. And I wanted to thank you also because we're recording this Monday the 2nd, which means that the Village video has officially dropped for the Shyamalan project. So thank you, Jacob, for being a part of that.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to talk M. Night Shyamalan. The Village, I've always defended ever since I first saw it. And in my opinion, I think it's his most misunderstood movie. So when you said The Village was open, I'm like, yes, I'm taking The Village. I really enjoy that movie. It's as flawed as it is. There's some dialogue that's very clunky as far as M. Night Shyamalan goes, but I like the story. The core romance is legit great, and I defend the twist ending. It's a really good twist ending.
Yeah, I'll definitely back you up on the it's misunderstood argument. It's one of those movies that really just got shellacked in the marketing, and you think it's just a modern thing, with the Justice League fiasco and all of that, but no, it's been happening for a while now, and The Village was just an unfortunate side effect of that. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, either you, Jacob, or someone in the comments, but I believe Shyamalan said that if he were in charge of that marketing team, he would have fired them.
I haven't read anything about that, but if he actually said that, I'd probably believe him on that. There were a lot of critics who really disliked the movie because they felt ripped off from the marketing. Like Roger Ebert was one of the notorious haters of The Village. If you look at his original review, he gave it a 1 out of 4 stars and called the film an absolute ripoff because he felt cheated. He hated the twist. He didn't care for the movie.
Adding insult to injury, Ebert put it on his worst movies of all time list. He released an article on one, I want to say 2004 or 5, of just all the movies that he's hated over the years. And it's such company as like Michael Bay's Armageddon and Freddy Got Fingered is The Village. And I have a lot of respect for Ebert as a critic, but man, he was kind of off on that one.
Yeah, I think maybe if he hadn't seen the trailer, he might have appreciated it a bit more. I'm not Roger Ebert. I don't know his mind or anything, but it's one of those. It is what it is. I'm glad to see it getting a second appraisal though.
Yeah, there are some who have actually, like a friend of the channel, Aaron White, who never needed a second view, or not a second viewing, but a critical reappraisal. He liked the movie from the start, which, I mean, credit where credit's due for sticking to his guns on that one. But yeah, it was. I'm finding more with the Shyamalan project that his early films, like everything after Unbreakable, are very misunderstood. And I have not seen Lady in the Water happening, or I haven't seen Lady in the Water and what I'm calling the Triangle of Terror, happening, Last Airbender, and
After Earth.
thank you. I haven't seen though. I haven't seen The Happening. I've seen Last Airbender, and I'm dreading rewatching it. And then I've never seen After Earth. But I'm getting the feeling that Shyamalan's early career has been very misunderstood, and I think he's one of those directors that people just write off, and it's a bit of a shame because I've defended him to the point where I've said that I think he is definitely misunderstood. It's not always perfect, but he's not the worst, like I've heard some people call him.
Yeah, I don't think he's the worst director either. I honestly think he's made more good movies than bad movies. I think from what I've seen, the only Shyamalan movie that I wouldn't say are great or that I think are not good movies, After Earth, The Happening, which it's kind of so bad it's good, but it's still a bad movie. No getting around that. And The Last Airbender, your little triangle of terror you referenced earlier.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to slash dreading reviewing The Last Airbender, but I'm gonna cross that bridge when I get there. But
Well, it's fun. It's funny because I first saw that when it came out in theaters, that the Last Airbender, and I had never even watched the cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, I think my cousin and my uncle took me to see the film because the trailers looked interesting, and at the time I thought it was okay. Then I watched the cartoon several years later, absolutely loved it. Went back to the Shyamalan film. I'm like, what is this mess I'm watching? This is horrible.
yeah, it's like the two go together. The Avatar: The Last Airbender TV series and the Last Airbender movie from Shyamalan go together like chalk and cheese. They just do not go together in the slightest. But
I just can't even I can't comprehend like how did he get the names wrong? Ong, Sokka or Soka,
Soka, yeah.
Zoku, Katera. What the
I
how do
mean,
you how
how
do
do
you
you
mess
make
that up?
how do you make Dev Patel suck in a movie? And Dev Patel's a good actor, but
Yeah.
he's not given any material to work with. Like they reduced Zuko, one of the more nuanced characters in the entire cartoon show, into just a shouting villain. It just was horrible. Like it's like the entire episode, the entire 20-minute episode of the show The Beach, which is an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, that 20-minute episode was so much better than that piece of crap movie. But like I said, I'm gonna rewatch it and I'm gonna have a special guest and we're gonna tear it apart. But let's get into some Daredevil talk now, Jacob, and let's talk about season 2, episode 11. We are near the end of season 2. This episode's called The Dark at the End of the Tunnel. Daredevil goes undercover to save an old friend. Karen follows a dangerous lead. The law firm of Nelson and Murdoch may have reached its final chapter. So you DM'd me after you watched this episode, Jacob, and you said that you had mixed thoughts. So I'll turn the floor over to you. You take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I was very conflicted on this episode. On one hand, I enjoyed surprisingly the storyline I've been engaged the most in the back half of Daredevil is the Karen Page stuff. She's really come on her own as a character. And now that she's in the journalism field and she's really investigating what's going on with Frank Castle, the Punisher, that storyline was absolutely engaging. I enjoyed seeing the direction of that story. The lead that she finds and the big twist on like who like the big I guess the big villain is that's setting Frank Castle up, which I didn't expect it was the general guy. I'm not gonna lie, but once it hits, I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting it, but I welcome it. And there's a good like little revenge story with the Punisher, and you see like the big point of no return on his character being a vigilante and stuff. That whole aspect I thought was really good. The Daredevil storyline is interesting. The problem is I've never been a fan of Elektra. Like her storyline, there's interesting layers to her character, but I've just never really found her storyline. It hasn't really fit well within where season 2 has been setting up so far, where it starts off with the Punisher. Elektra shows up in like episode 4 or 5, and her whole story thread just felt like a distracting side plot. And so it's frustrating when Daredevil's not even part of the whole Punisher storyline. He's off with Elektra, and they have to reluctantly team up to save what's his name, Stick, their old mentor or whatever. And then we get more of the hand, and even that whole reveal of the hand I thought was pretty underwhelming. And then they're saying, "Oh, Elektra is like the key to making the hand the powerful figure." I'm like, I don't care because it wasn't built up well. It's a weird thing, and I'm not enjoying this. There's a cliffhanger with like the leader of the hand who's like, "Kill the Daredevil." I just don't care about this. Why are we making such a big deal out of the storyline? I want more Punisher stuff.
Yeah, I definitely got the feeling that the Punisher is the far more interesting character. He's kind of usurped Daredevil in a sense.
Yeah, I would agree, and it's been frustrating where they've done the whole Daredevil storyline because I want to see Daredevil take on the Punisher. Like the fight they had early on was awesome. Uh, and then when he's forced to defend him as Matt Murdock, I was enjoying that. But then Elektra showed up and kind of sabotaged that story a little bit, and he's kind of been like a juggling act. Like, oh, I gotta do this, and I gotta do this, I gotta do this. I'm just not. I'm not. I don't have any emotional attachment with this safe stick and protecting Elektra and taking on the hand. Like the fight choreography is good. There's some good action sequences, and it's cool seeing Daredevil kick butt and all, but I just don't care. It's by the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree. And there's actually going back to the Punisher stuff for a minute. Shout out to Clancy Brown because he just crushed it in like his small role in this show. I mean, Clancy Brown has to be one of my favorite character actors of all time. Like when I first saw him, I guess because again, I've seen this season before, so but I haven't seen it in a while, so all this was still a bit new to me. But seeing him, I guess my alarm should have gone off and be like, oh, Clancy Brown's here. He's clearly the villain in this, or is going to turn heel. And sure enough, he does. And he has a great little monologue there, and just like he just turns despicable by the end. I mean, he's the warden from Shawshank. I mean, I guess we shouldn't have expected anything less.
Yeah, like I said, I forgot the character was even in the show. I know he showed up at that one of the trial episodes. I'm like, oh, give a good little monologue there. Just one of them throwaway characters helps out with the story, move on. And yeah, I wasn't expecting him being like the twist villain of the show. And I thought he did a good job at balancing that. Like you think you can trust him, but he's more sinister than what you actually think.
Right. Did you catch that bit in I believe 380, the previous episode, where Punisher's listening to that song in the car, and then
Yes.
that song comes back
As
when
soon as I heard the song, I'm like, yep, he's coming back.
yeah, that was a great little moment. That's a super underrated moment in this season. When I heard that song, I'm like, Punisher's coming back. And he's not taking any prisoners. Not that he did in the first place. But it broke my heart when Foggy and Matt just seemingly went their separate ways. And I imagine they're going to come back, but just how lukewarm they're like, oh well, this is it now. I'm just like, come on, guys, figure something out now. And I have a feeling they're going to mend things by the end. But just I feel so bad for these two.
Yeah, same here. But I gotta give Foggy credit. He gave the tip to Matt about those underground tunnels, and that's how he found Sticks. So yeah, they're still gonna be fine by the end of it.
Yeah, but now that we're just at the end, I wanted to ask you, do you prefer, and I think I know the answer to this question, do you prefer season one or season two?
Definitely season one. Season one was a much more cohesive season. It stuck with its main villain with Wilson Fisk. I think that's all around the more engaging story, and it's a good origin story for Matt Murdock and how he truly became Daredevil by the end of the season. Whereas season two, like there's stuff I love in it that rival the first season, especially with the Punisher. But what's hurting it is the Elektra the Electra B plot. That should have been its own season, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, we've got one episode left, and then the season is over. And then I believe next up we're moving on to Luke Cage, so that's going to be exciting. But what did you all think of this episode? If you have seen it, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. All right, Jacob, let's get into the main event for the evening. This is the January 2023 preview. Thank you for compiling this list as always. And January is known as being the trash month for movies where everything just goes to die. But this particular month, did you notice anything like, is it keeping up with the trend? Did you notice anything you might go out of your way to see?
I think this is continuing on in the January trash trend. There's most of the movies that of the trailers that I saw, there was hardly any that looked interesting to me. Most of them looked terrible, whether theatrical or the ones that are going to streaming. I messaged you beforehand because there was one trailer we couldn't find. There's one movie we need to talk about that I think had a limited premiere around Christmas, but it's getting a nationwide expansion in January. That's the one January movie that has, in my opinion, it has some potential to be good. But other than that, maybe a couple others, it's going to be a dud month for sure, I think.
I believe that would be The Man from Otto. Is that, or The Man from, what am I talking about?
That sounds like a thriller spy movie, The Man from Otto.
The sequel to The Man from Uncle, The Man from Otto. A Man Called Otto. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, we'll definitely be touching that in just a minute, but let's dive into the month, starting off with Megan, and this is spelled M3GAM, which is designed to purposely make me mad and me alone, but that's neither here nor there. This is going straight to theaters. A robotics engineer at a toy company builds a lifelike doll that begins to take on a life of its own. So this is a female child's play. I mean, this is literally child's play, Jacob.
Yeah, pretty much. It's frustrating because I want to root for this movie. It looks fun from the trailers alone, and it's fun seeing the memes of this like Megan killer doll thing breakdancing while killing, and it could be an enjoyable watch. But this past week, I saw the film got a PG-13 rating, and horror movies and PG-13 9 times out of 10 do not work together. There's some exceptions to the rule. A Quiet Place, along with its sequel, Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell. Heck, I'd even argue Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was an enjoyable PG-13 horror film. But 9 times out of 10, if you take a premise that's very scary, like especially slasher movies, and try to reach it to a broader audience where like the kills and the gore and stuff's dumbed down, half the time it doesn't work. So I'm a little concerned over that, but I still want to root for this movie at the same time because it looks fun. But because of the PG-13 rating, optimistically, I'm going 2.5.
Yeah, I'll see. I'll meet you there on that one at 2.5. I mean, it could be fun, but at the same time, I remember just reading this premise and just mulling it in my head and thinking to myself, this is child's play. I mean, no, the doll's not getting possessed by the soul of a killer, but I mean, it's a very similar premise. But anyway, I mean, it could be fun. It's produced by James Wan, and he normally has a pretty good eye for horror, so who knows? It might be a surprise. Well, next up, you know what? Let's cover the man. I did it again. A
The Man
man.
from Otto would be a good sequel, because, only because I think what Army Hammer was in the last movie, and Tom Hanks can be the recast.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, let us talk about A Man Called Otto. This is going to theaters, and it is based off of the book, which I have read and I actually quite enjoyed. Otto is a grump who's given up on life following the loss of his wife and wants to end it all. When a young family moves in nearby, he meets his match in quick-witted Marisol, leading to a friendship that will turn his world around. Now, like I said, I have read this book. I actually read it late in 2022, and I really enjoyed it. And there has been, I believe, a Swedish version of this. It was called A Man Called Ove. So I'm not sure how I feel about renaming the character Otto, but it's directed by Mark Forster, who has done enjoyable movies in the past, and it's starring Tom Hanks. So that ain't nothing.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is one of my favorite, if not my favorite actor. So that's an easy win for me. It looks like this movie's veering back into the comedy genre, which was something Tom Hanks was good at like early on in his career. You know, being in movies like Big and Turner and Hooch, these silly movies, but still having a ton of heart to them. So if this movie can balance, Oscar caliber Tom Hanks while him doing silly comedy shenanigans, I hope it's still a good movie. And Mark Forster is such an underrated director. I especially enjoy movies like Finding Neverland, and he also directed Christopher Robin, which is one of the better live action Disney films in recent years. So I think there's a lot of potential on this one. It looks like it'll be a fun time, a fun family watch. I'm gonna go 4 on this one.
You know what? I am going to go slightly lower at 3.5. I'm not sure if I am a fan of not making this in Sweden instead. Like, I hope they don't like Americanize it, if that makes any sense. But this has a lot of ingredients of things that I really love. And seeing the trailer, the subway scene, I thought they were going to cut that out. It turns out no, it looks like they're going to leave it in, which surprised me. And if you've read the book, you will definitely understand what I'm talking about. Well, next up is The Old Way. This is, I believe, coming to theaters. An old gunslinger and his daughter must face the consequences of his past when the son of a man he murdered years ago arrives to take his revenge. This movie stars Nicolas Cage, and I think I might be in a small minority, but I really enjoyed this trailer. I thought it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, the plot looks like something you've seen in so many other westerns, past and present. But the thing that intrigues me the most about this movie is the fact that one, you got Nicolas Cage in it, and two, he's in a western, which he's never done before. I'm curious to see Nicolas Cage in a western, and is he gonna do normal Nicolas Cage, or is he gonna go crazy, unhinged, over the top Nicolas Cage? That's what intrigues me the most about this movie. The plot doesn't look like anything special, and there are some YouTubers I know personally that got early screeners for this movie, and they weren't really that crazy about it. They said the plot was pretty generic and stuff, but I'll watch it for Nick Cage. It looks fun on that premise alone. I'm just gonna go 3 for the Cage factor.
I'm going 3.5. I thought this movie looked like a ton of fun, and really, we need more westerns. Like most of the westerns I've seen in the 2010s have been very enjoyable, so I hope they make a small comeback. Well, next up is House Party. This is coming to theaters. A high school student decides to host a house party while his parents are away, a remake of the 1990 comedy House Party. So, Jacob, have you seen House Party? I think I know the answer to this.
I've never heard of the original House Party.
No, I haven't either. As a matter of fact, let me do a bit of digging. Let me just see. House Party 1990. Here we go. This kid decides to go to his friend Play's house party, but neither of them can predict what's in store for them on what could be the wildest night of their lives. And this was released in 1990. And this version, they don't say in IMDb, but it's in all the trailers. The gimmick is that the two main characters hold this big house party at the house of LeBron James, who is conveniently on a meditation retreat with his family because plot convenience is convenient. But what did you think of this one, Jacob?
It looks awful. There's like no part of the trailer that made me laugh. Like it just seemed like trendy joke after trendy joke after trendy joke, and then there's like bottom of the barrel references and uh, the LeBron James thing. I'm like, why is he doing another movie like this? Like, didn't people not like him in Space Jam? Then why is he still wanting to do these acting roles? And then they like even do like topical jokes that don't make sense. Like the two black guys see the one white guy, like, oh, he's gonna call the cops, and then they run to the white guy, and he's like, Black Lives Matter and stuff. I'm like, uh, it, it looks dumb. I'm not excited to watch this. One, I'm going one.
I feel like you're being generous in that. But yeah, in my Chris Mania series last year, I covered Office Christmas Party, and I was not a big fan of it. I really didn't like that one. And I'm just slowly coming to the feeling that I'm just not a big fan of these raunchy comedies. They just try way too hard. And I think maybe I can say I like one, maybe two of them. But overall, I'm just not a fan of that subgenre. And this just looks like it's going to be that. I'm going to give it a 1, and I think I am being generous in that. Well, next up is Plane. This is also coming to theaters. A pilot finds himself caught in a war zone after he's forced to land his commercial aircraft during a terrible storm. This is our cheesy Gerard Butler movie for the year. Jacob, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, cheesy Gerard Butler movie, complete with probably the dumbest, laziest title I think I've seen in a while. Plane.
He's next going to star in a movie called Train, and then and then
And
it's
then Boat.
and then it's going to be Automobile.
Yeah. Yeah. The movie doesn't really excite me that much. I've never been that big a Gerard Butler fan. Like, there's moments where he shines, like 300, for instance, but most of the movies I've seen him in doesn't really appeal to me in the slightest. It is cool because part of the premise is him teaming up with a convict that's on the plane with him, and they got to team up to save these hostages, pretty much. And the convict is played by uh, the actor who plays Luke Cage in the Netflix shows, and it's cool that he's getting more work. So I gotta give him credit for that. But this movie just looks like a disposable, generic, boring action movie with little to offer. It looks like the countless other Gerard Butler bargain bin movies, and uh, you gotta have something to sell me. And playing this, even with a lazy title, is not selling me. So I'm going 2 on this one.
Yeah, I'll give it a 2 as well. This movie is just borderline plain. I shall see myself out. Did you get it? Plain is plain.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Well, next up is Missing. This is also coming to theaters. And it just says under wraps here on IMDb for some strange reason. But this is written by the same director of Searching, which is a fantastic movie, one of my favorites of 2018. And I've seen the trailer now a couple times. It's been attached to a couple of movies I've seen in theaters. And this movie just looks like it's going to be so much fun. I am so looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I think we talked about this recently when we talked about recent trailers. As much as I really enjoyed Searching the movie, and that was such a breath of fresh air as far as doing I think an investigation story using technology. I'm intrigued by the teenage angle of Missing compared to the first movie. It was like the father looking for the missing child. This is the child looking for her mother. I'm curious where that's going to go. But at the same time, I feel like all the stuff I've seen in this trailer, I feel like this feels like Searching, and I don't think the reverse angle they're doing is going to be enough to make it fresh compared to what Searching was. I mean, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. If it's well received, I'll go see it. But for me, I'm just kind of mixed on it personally. Like, nothing in this trailer like really floored me by any means. It just looked like, oh, I've seen this in a better movie, and that was Searching. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, just because I like the child actress Storm Reed. I've seen her in a few stuff, and she's pretty good. Just for that alone, I'll give it a 3.
I'm gonna go 4. I love this trailer, and I'm so looking forward to this one. It looks like my kind of thriller. But But next up is When You Finish Saving the World. This is also coming to theaters. Evelyn and her oblivious son Ziggy seek out replacements for each other as Evelyn desperately tries to parent an unassuming teenager at her shelter, while Ziggy fumbles through his pursuit of a brilliant young woman at school. Fun fact, this movie was written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg. Lex Luthor in the DCEU has written and directed this movie. And it's being produced by A24, I believe, because
Yeah.
of course it is. So, Jacob, what did you think of this one?
Well, for one, congrats on Jesse Eisenberg for wanting to write and make a movie. I hope he has a good directing career, and I hope this movie succeeds for him. For one thing, I'm I was surprised by this trailer. Like it looked like a coming of age story that was up my alley. This like struggling teenager trying to fit in and stuff, and the disconnect with him and his mom. We got Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things fame, and Julianne Moore as the mother. They're both talented actresses, and while I don't think this has potential to be like one of the year's best movies, I can see it being either a sleeper hit or a hidden gem that could be one of the more underrated movies of the year list. I'm intrigued by this, mainly for the performances. I'm going to go 4 just on the strength of the premise and the two leads.
Yeah, I'll meet you there and go 4. I think this might be a silent hit because I like Finn Wolfhard and I love Julianne Moore. So this could be something that's up my alley. Well, next up, and continuing the string of very sad Bruce Willis movies, Detective Night Independence. Oh boy.
How many Detective Night movies are there? Didn't we cover one in December?
It feels like it, yeah, but should I even read this synopsis? I guess I'll just read it anyway. Detective James Knight's last-minute assignment to the Independence Day shift turns into a race to stop an unbalanced ambulance EMT from imperiling the city's festivities. The misguided vigilante playing cop with a stolen gun and uniform as a bank vault full of reasons to put his own fireworks show, one that will strike dangerously close to Knight's home. So, one.
I 1.5. I gave it 1.5. Only because I feel so bad for Bruce Willis that one with his health problems, and two that he got pretty much exploited into all these like cheap bargain bin directed video quality action movies. I think the only other reason I gave it a half star because I saw the villain is played by Val Kilmer's son.
Yes, I did notice that. I was looking at it and like Jack Kilmer. I wonder if there's any relation. Sure enough, he's Val Kilmer's son.
Then if you like pause at the image, like he looks almost like Val Kilmer in his prime, which is I guess you tend to expect that like father like son, but it's an uncanny image, that's for sure.
Be funny in the movie, and I probably won't watch it to see, but it would be funny if he dropped an I'm your Huckleberry, but it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah,
Well,
I gave it a 1.5 just for that extra trivia. I'm kind of curious. Val Kilmer's son. Hope he has a good career as well. But how many of these movies are we gonna get? How
I
many
mean,
movies did Bruce Willis do before he retired?
I don't know. The man clearly was a workhorse, but I mean, in regards to like Jack Kilmer, I mean, James Cameron directed Piranha 2, and he's like one of the best directors of all time. So everybody's got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yep.
Well, next up is Teen Wolf the movie. This is going straight to Paramount Plus. A terrifying evil has emerged. The wolves howl once again, but only a werewolf like Scott McCall can gather both new allies and reunite trusted friends to fight back against what could be the most powerful and deadliest enemy. I was today years old when I found out that there was a Teen Wolf series. Jacob, what did you?
Yeah, I've not watched a single episode of the show. I don't know if it has any relation with that 80s movie with Michael J. Fox or it's its own little series coincidentally with the same title. But just watching the trailer for this, it looks bad. To me, it looks like an extended CW TV episode with bad dialogue, shady effects. It looked like really cringe acting. I guess if you're a fan of the show, this might work for you, but I don't think this is going to win any newcomers. And this looked it looked pretty bad from an outsider's perspective. This is easily a one for me.
Yeah, it's a one for me as well. And it did not air on the CW, it aired on MTV. So that makes too much sense, number
Oh man,
one. And number two, it's
Right.
loose, and according to Wikipedia, loosely based on the 1985 film from the same name. Loosely based. Well, next up is You People. This is coming to Netflix. Follows a new couple and their families who find themselves examining modern love and family dynamics amidst clashing cultures, societal expectations, and generational differences. That is a mouthful of words. This is co-written by Jonah Hill. It also stars him as well as Eddie Murphy, who I was not expecting to see in this trailer, but he looks good. He looks like he hasn't aged a day.
Yeah, I agree.
What'd you
I
think?
don't think it looks all right. I don't think it's going to be like the next great Eddie Murphy vehicle, but I'm glad to see that he's still getting work. And there were a couple moments there where I chuckled in the trailer. I don't think this is like peak laugh out loud Eddie Murphy, like during his heyday, or even when I grew up during like the family friendly era with Shrek, where he was Donkey. But I like Eddie Murphy. I'm gonna if I do see the movie, I'll watch it for him. Jonah Hill's all right, and I hope it's a watchable Netflix comedy that gets its laughs going. So I'm going 3.5.
Yeah, I'll go 3.5 as well. The movie honestly looks pretty solid, and I saw in the comments section of the trailer saying, I hope this movie is just Jonah Hill and this couple in this diner. And I hope that's what they do, because if it is, it could be quite interesting. Well, next up is Shotgun Wedding. This is coming to Amazon Prime. A couple's extravagant destination wedding is hijacked by criminals. In the process of saving their families, they rediscover why they fell in love in the first place. This trailer was wild. First of all, it's soundtracked by Daughtry, which I like Daughtry, but they kind of fell off the earth for a bit if you really think about it. And then it's like a nice little thing of like, oh, J-Lo, she's on the outside. Her family doesn't really like her all that, or not her family, but her soon-to-be husband's family, played by Josh Duhamel. They don't like her all that much. And then the criminals show up, and I was sitting there like, what? Where did these people come from? Jake, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, it went in a very weird direction. Like before the criminal showed up, I'm like, this is a cringe, unfunny rom com. And then the criminals show up, and I'm like, they're trying to do Die Hard with a wedding, but still be a rom com, and it looks bad. I don't really care for this. I don't even in the trailer. I'm not really buying the chemistry between the two leads. It looks painfully unfunny. It's not interesting me in the slightest. It looks it could be a so bad it's good movie. I don't know, but I guess mm, a two, just a two, just because it could be a so bad it's good movie.
I'll go 2.5. It got a chuckle out of me, if for nothing else, because of the what in the world nature of it. Just my jaw dropped on the floor at some of this stuff. So I mean, it got a reaction out of me. So I guess that's something. But shout out to Daughtry. I love the song "Feels Like Tonight." I listen to it often, and it's quite a banger. But we got a couple more left. So first up is Infinity Pool, and this is directed by Brandon Cronenberg. I want to say this is the son of David Cronenberg.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, thank you. James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of Latolka when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. So, Jacob, what'd you think of this one?
Well, first off, I've not seen any film from David Cronenberg. I know about his infamous body horror and stuff, and it looks like his son is following in the same directions as his very wild, crazy dad. Uh, it looks very disturbing to watch. Like there were moments in the trailer with like the surgery and some of the disturbing imagery of some of these characters. It gave me a Clockwork Orange vibe at times, and I'm not the biggest fan of that movie, but the premise is still intriguing. But like I think what I said when Crimes of the Future came out, since I'm not familiar with the Cronenbergs, I don't think this is the movie to get introduced to whether the father or the son, if you know what I mean. But it still looks kind of interesting though. I'm gonna go three.
Yeah, I'll go three as well. I haven't seen a ton of David Cronenberg's work. I know I'm a bad horror fan. I haven't seen much of his work, but maybe this will be the thing that inspires me to dive in. Who really knows? But next up is, and to close things out, is Worlds Apart. Three couples who know one another are stuck at home during the beginning of lockdown. Jonathan, Clarissa, and Paul will see their lives turned upside down, forced to look at each other and ultimately themselves. I'm kind of done with pandemic movies, Jacob. They just have very similar premises of we're stuck at home. Like, what do we do now? Is unless you're Steven Soderbergh, like it doesn't work for me. But the trailer looks interesting enough, if nothing else, because of Bob Odenkirk, who I'm a big fan of, and Danny Houston as well. He's good in pretty much anything.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. Like the COVID angle, when I saw that was what they were going with, I'm like, oh no, I'm ready to move on from this. It seems like they're trying to exploit what was such a bad event and tragedy for a lot of people just to make a cheap movie out of it. The one exception to me, I haven't seen the Soderbergh movie, but they explored COVID and Knives Out, but they did that in such an interesting angle, and I enjoyed the humor in regards to how Ryan Johnson handled it. To me, that was the one exception. But at least with this movie, like I'm not too sold on the premise yet, but I agree, Ryan. It looks the cast looks interesting enough. Hopefully, they can pull off the material, especially Bob Odenkirk. But I'm not sold on it yet just because of the COVID thing. So I'm going to go 2.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna go two, and those two stars go to Bob Odenkirk and Danny Houston exclusively because I'm a fan of both of those two. So that's the January 2023 preview. Not a ton of options here, but I mean, I'm an optimist, so there might be something that surprises me. But if any of those movies do entice you, let us know in the comments, or just say, I'm going to be watching The Last of Us when it premieres, because Lord knows I am. But thank you all so much for watching. That is another episode in the books. Jacob, thank you. It is a privilege as always. Tell the people where they can find you.
They can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, and Facebook. And of course, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel where I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, all that fun stuff. I'm going to be dropping actually, as of recording this today, I dropped my November Cinema Roundup video where I finally share my first time thoughts on the movies I watched in November, like Glass Onion, Black Panther, and Disenchanted, just to name a few. My December video will drop real soon where I'll be sharing my first time thoughts on movies like Avatar The Way of Water, Puss in Boots The Last Wish, and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, among others. And then I'll bring my Celebrating Disney series back this week where I'll share my thoughts on Mulan 2, the infamous direct-to-video sequel, which I rewatched, and it's honestly one of the most disgraceful movie sequels I've ever seen in my life. Be on the lookout for that rant video coming. And I also will be doing a live collab with Jacob Collins from 3D Movie Cinema. I'm bringing my Stanley Kubrick series back this month, and we'll be discussing A Clockwork Orange. So be on the lookout for those videos and live streams coming to the channel this week.
Yes, give Jacob a subscribe. Let's get him to 1,000 subscribers because he's just crossed the 700 threshold. Let's get him to 4 digits. But as for this channel goes, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in as always. The Shyamalan Project continues. Next week, with this coming Monday, will be my review for Lady in the Water, which I'll be watching for the first time. Please send prayers for me because I've heard nothing but bad things. And then starting this Sunday will be my Rocky series, where I will be reviewing every Rocky movie in the lead up to Creed 3. And I'm looking forward to doing that because even from what I've heard from Rocky 5, maybe the exception, but there is not a single Rocky movie that has been a miss. So it's going to be a lot of fun to revisit those. And then I will be seeing at the very least Megan and hopefully The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix. So I will try to have reviews up for both of those. But in the meantime, again, thank you all so much. For Jacob Martin, my name is Ryan Cam. See you in the next one, and Happy New Year.